Hey everyone, how's it growing? This is Miss Simon, your garden teacher, and today we are going to be talking about one of my favorite animals, and yes, they are animals, the worm. So I will be reading you this book called The Worm by Elise Gravel, and then we'll get to see worms up close and personal, in action, and you'll get to do your own worm project. The Worm by Elise Gravel. Oh, hi! Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the worm. The worm is a long animal that's shaped like a tube. It doesn't have a skeleton or a spine. It's an invertebrate. It also doesn't have any legs. So what? If I had legs, I'd have to buy shoes. There are many different kinds of worms. Here are some of them. The earthworm, I'm the most popular. The tapeworm, I'm not actually sticky. The flatworm. The white worm, I'm called a worm, but I have legs. Many insect larvae, like the maggot, which is actually a baby fly. Some worms are so small that you need a microscope to see them. Others can be 115 feet long, like the ribbon worm that lives in oceans and rivers. Aw, you're so cute. Little worm, big worm. Worms can live in different habitats. Some live in the water. Others live in rotting plants. Some even live inside human or animal bodies. These are called parasites. Pass the salt, please. The most common worm is the earthworm. An earthworm is basically a long digestive tract inside a muscle tube. It's that muscle tube that's slimy and disgusting. Hey, I'm not disgusting. Worms have been on Earth for millions of years, maybe even billions. Biologists believe they evolved with dinosaurs. Back in my day, kids respected earthworms. Earthworms have no eyes, but they can sense light with something called photoreceptors, sensors in the worm's skin that react to light. No eyes? That can't be true. I'm sure I had some eyes around here somewhere. Let me look. Earthworms move by squeezing their muscles, causing their bodies to contract and expand. Contract, expand, contract, expand. Feel these! Earthworms eat rotting plants and enrich the soil by making paths that let air and water circulate in it. It's good for nature. Thank you, kind sir. You're welcome, madame. Many kinds of worms are hermaphrodites, which means they have both male and female reproductive organs. In other words, an earthworm is a boy and a girl at the same time. They still need a partner to reproduce, though. You look ravishing today, dear. Earthworms might seem pretty gross, but they're very useful. They recycle nature's waste and help turn it into soil. Farmers and gardeners love earthworms. Fishermen use earthworms to catch fish, and some people even eat them and find them delicious. What? Delicious? No. I'm disgusting. So next time you meet an earthworm, be polite. Worms are your friends. Hey, wanna play football? This big wooden box is our vermicompost bin. And vermi means worm, and composting is the process of taking old organic materials and converting it to a new product, which is the compost. And it's basically like really healthy soil that we can then use in the garden. So inside of this vermicompost bin, we also call it a worm bin, is some old rotten fruit and vegetables. There's also scraps of paper and cardboard. And all of this stuff can be eaten by the worms and then turned into fresh soil. So I'm gonna dig around a little bit and show you what the worms are up to. Worms really like to climb through this corrugated cardboard that has these ridges. They love to go inside here and mate with each other. This worm here looks like it actually might be pregnant. So if we take a closer look, do you see this wide part of the worm right here? That's called the clitellum. And the clitellum is where the eggs are going to be stored until they're ready to hatch. So to me, that worm looks like its clitellum is a little bit enlarged, which means it might have babies pretty soon. Let's see what else is going on in here. Oh look, this one also has a super enlarged clitellum. The other important thing about this clitellum is that it tells us which side of the worm is the head versus the tail. So the head is always going to be closest to the clitellum, which means this back part here is the tail. See how it's also searching around using this end? That's another clue that we're looking at the worm's head. So the worm has 4 main body parts. One of them I just mentioned is the clitellum, where the eggs will be held. Another part is the head and the tail. Those are 2 more parts. And then the last part I want to talk about are the segments. You see all those little lines all over the worm's body? Well, those are the segments, and a worm can have anywhere between about 100 segments to maybe 120. Those segments help the worm to move. So worms only have 2 types of muscles. One type helps them to expand and get long and skinny. The other helps them to contract and get short and wider. So carefully watch how these worms are moving and stretching and then contracting. That's due to those segments. So composting with worms is really easy because they do all the hard work for us. They're the ones eating all day and converting our food scraps, like this old apple, into a new product that we can use in the garden. So they're like little recyclers. They're super important to the earth, and that's why we have this big worm bin here to help save waste from going to the landfill. For today's activity, you can download one of the worksheets that I have attached to this video. I'm gonna do this one today. It says, focus question, what are the parts of a red worm? And I'll go over the answers with you. If you remember them, awesome. If not, just follow along with me. So we talked about how a worm has 4 parts. The first one I wanna talk about is the clitellum. Now, you can't see it very well on this illustration, but the clitellum is right around here, and it's closer to the head than the tail. So I'm gonna write down clitellum, and you can too. Okay. And I did just give you a hint. The clitellum is closest to the head. That's going to be our second part we're labeling today. Okay, so this part, not the head, but the tail. And the tail is where that lovely vermicompost, that final end product, is going to come out of. All right, finally, we have one more part of the worm, and this part makes up most of the worm's body. I mentioned it earlier, it is called the segments. All right, awesome. So once you've labeled your 4 parts of the worm, you can move down to this section which says a red worm has, and there's room for you to fill in that information. So this can be anything from the video that you found interesting. For me, I'm gonna write that a red worm has no eyes. You can choose whatever fun fact you'd like as long as it pertains to what the red worm has. Great, so I have filled in all the information that you need. Now I'm going to color in my worm. It doesn't have to be realistic. I'm gonna make mine a rainbow worm, but you can do whatever you'd like. So this is our activity for the day, but if you do have the ability to go outside and look for a real worm to observe, then I would absolutely love it. You know, if we were in real garden class, you would definitely get to be seeing these worms up close and getting to hold them and really appreciate how they, all they do for the garden. And there you have it. I hope you learned a lot about worms today and that they are our friends.